Hello, everyone. This is Jolene Villanueva on behalf of BV Tech Savvy Elementary School. Today, I'd like to talk about bridging the gap between people who adopt innovative ideas easily and those who show resistance. We will also discuss this from a biblical perspective. You see, the fear of the unknown often leads to rejection. Just the same, innovative ideas can cause apprehension and result in resistance. When adopting technology in educational environments, we encounter many different personalities. We may come upon individuals who embrace modern ideas and are willing to try new technology, but not everyone welcomes change. The purpose of this presentation is to create awareness on how we can bridge the gap between technological innovation and educational systems, as well as how we can model Jesus Christ to do so. So let's talk about Rogers' diffusion of innovation theory. Rogers' diffusion of innovation theory proposes a clear framework that describes the process of adopting innovation and diffusing it. Frey Landau et al. 2022. According to Rogers 2003, adoption is deciding to use new technology for the well-being of the entity and everyone involved, while rejecting adoption refers to deciding not to do so. Rogers 2003 categorizes the members of an educational system according to their willingness to adopt innovations. He described these categories of adopters as innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. He further classified these 5 categories of adopters into these 2 main groups, earlier adopters and later adopters. The innovators, early adopters, and early majority make up the earlier adopters, while the late majority and laggards are part of the later adopters. These 2 main groups are categorized by socioeconomic status, personality, and social behaviors. The early adopters are more status motivated for adopting innovations, but the later adopters don't perceive status as being as important. Science 2006. According to Rogers 2003, the less schooled, the lower the income, the less social, and so on, are generally the most resistant to change and the last to adopt innovations. Let's look at each adopter closely. The innovators are the gatekeepers. They bring in innovation from the outside. They are open-minded and they are willing to explore innovative ideas. Because they are perceptive and accepting of changes and challenges, they have vast technical knowledge. Innovators aren't widely accepted by other members of society because of their desire to discover and try new things. The innovators make up 2.5% of the population, and they are the first group of the earlier adopters. In that same category of earlier adopters, we also have the early adopters. Unlike innovators, the early adopters are more accepted by members of society because the early adopters are more likely to hold leadership roles. Therefore, they are role models and they are relied on for guidance and assistance. The early adopters' positive attitudes of adopting innovation make everyone feel comfortable with adopting it as well. And the last of the earlier adopters is the early majority. The early majority's decision to approve and adopt innovation tends to take more time than it would take innovators and early adopters to adopt innovation, but they aren't the last to adopt innovation either. They adopt innovation before half of their colleagues do. Their interpersonal networks are very meaningful, and they are very well accepted by other members of society, so their opinion is greatly valued. In the second classification of later adopters, we have the late majorities. The late majorities are the skeptics. They are skeptical about adopting innovation. The late majorities doubt that adopting innovation will have positive outcomes, so they wait until everyone else adopts the innovation and then they'll consider adopting it according to what happened. Late majorities rely on persuasion or pressure from their peers to feel less hesitant about adopting innovation. Interpersonal networks play an essential role in their decision. The last of the later adopters are the laggards. The laggards are the most conventional group of adopters. These are the most resistant to change and innovation. They are also the most confined group of the social system, so that does not help them change their point of view because they socialize with other laggards who think like they do. They don't hold leadership roles or expand their interpersonal network, so this limits their resources and it limits their awareness and their familiarity with innovations. Laggards take a while to decide on adapting innovation because they base their decision on how well it worked in the past or how well it was adopted. This reminds me of the parable of the sower. In Luke 8:4-15, God uses this parable to compare the seeds to the word of God. In this parable, a sower is sowing seeds, and some seeds fell on the edge of a path and were trampled on, and birds came and ate them up. Some seeds fell on rock, and they withered away. Some seeds fell in the middle of thorns, and the thorns choked them. And some seeds fell into good soil and grew and produced beautiful crops. So as God uses this parable to compare the seeds to his word, I can also think of comparing this parable to how innovation is adopted. So innovation for the later adopters can be compared to the seeds that fell on the edge of the path around the rock or in the thorns. They hear about the innovation, but they allow negativity to take over, so they don't innovate. Sometimes they do try, but they don't have roots deep enough to continue implementing the innovation. However, for the earlier adopters, they are like the seeds that fell in rich soil. They allow to be molded, they create deep roots, and they take new knowledge and expand on it to make it their very own and try their best to serve the world. The best example of leadership is provided to us by Jesus. He led his people by welcoming them without any pressure at all. He shared truth and invited everyone to follow him. However, everyone was free to make their own decisions. The earlier adopters are leaders. I would use the help of the earlier adopters by encouraging them to be role models for the late majorities and show them the value in the adoption of the innovation. Earlier adopters are not afraid to show their leadership skills and are open-minded, so I would encourage them to create ways to skillfully attract the late majorities and provide them with positive, helpful experiences that will convince the late majorities into adopting that technological innovation. Keeping Christ in mind, the best way to work with the later adopters is to help them with love. The late adopters are full of uncertainty, so to reduce this uncertainty, the late adopters should be informed about the advantages and disadvantages of adopting innovation. The earlier adopters can prepare a presentation to present to the late majorities, describing the innovation in detail and making them aware of all of the consequences. They can also make a video of the innovation in action, or they can even invite them to see the innovation in action. Once they are persuaded, the late majorities can practice using the innovation over and over again with support until they feel comfortable implementing the innovation on their own. The more an innovation is tried, the faster its adoption is, according to Science 2006. Then the innovation can be changed by the adopter. Reinventing the innovation and sort of making it your own can help the adoption of the innovation. According to Time 2006, it's also helpful to support and motivate through factors like direct or indirect financial incentives, and this will increase the rate of adopting innovations. It is important to lead like Jesus did, because he led with love and through example. In Colossians 3:12-13, we are called to guide with kindness, compassion, patience, humility, and gentleness. Leadership is not about being superior. Instead, it's a place to serve. These are the references used in this presentation. Thank you for your time.